Good
Hello.
evening.
Hopefully you can
Hi,
hear us all
guys.
okay.
Can you hear us all okay today? You know our track record.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. We've got 13 people in. Come say hello so we know you're here, please.
yeah. Can you hear us okay?
We've got 13
We can
people in.
hear each other, you see, but we need to know you can hear us as well. Can you hear us okay?
Oh, God, hold on.
I can hear yourself, man.
Yeah, but for some reason my speaker started playing. I thought I turned it off. Hi, Anne. Hey, 14.
Oh,
Good, loud and clear.
dear 40, you're right. New Brunswick, hey, and Jackie Taylor and King. It's all good to see you. I think we'll just wait here for a little bit longer just to let a few other people come stop by. Do you want me to read the disclaimer today?
Yeah, you can read it tonight. Hi, Funky. Hi, Simon.
Hang on, a little bigger. So we are a topical discussion channel. Any discussions are for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed by hosts and guests are based on personal experience and research that they have conducted. However, they are merely personal opinions and should be treated as such. Theories within content are not designed to offend or incite hate towards anyone. We encourage our community to remain respectful and be kind to other members and guests. And we hope you all enjoy our channel, and we would really appreciate it if you like and subscribe, as this will help our channel greatly. And please feel free to comment below. It's your input is essential to a component to our channel, and your opinions are important. Gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get on today. We've got so much reading to do. It's a late one tonight, isn't it, on a Sunday?
Yes. I've had so much trouble. I transcribed some of the stuff, but one of them, twice I tried to transcribe it and it just wouldn't work. So I'm afraid that one's going to have to be done next time because it just kept telling me error. And I think after an hour, I was like, no, can't do it
That's
anymore.
great. Well, to be fair, the amount we've got here to read, I think there's going to have to be a part 4 to it because we've got quite a lot to go through, haven't we?
Yeah.
We're going to go through Thackeray and his wonderful video that he created, and he gives evidence in the courtroom. So we're going to go through that.
We've got Dr. Rebecca Gray and the mental health clinician as well. So we've got them to go through.
So I think Rebecca Gray's Nikki's GP, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll start with that.
Yeah, let's go over to Thackeray. As usual, I'll be Dr. Adley. So, again, as always with this, we won't be saying exactly what they say. We have to paraphrase due to the conditions of us having this audio. So, what you'll get is a very true likeness to what was said, but not word for word. It'll be slightly changed. Okay, shall I start?
Yeah, start.
So, PC Thackeray. And then he goes, oh, okay, sorry, no idea where the witnesses are, so I'm looking vaguely round the ports. If you'd like to come and take a seat, please.
Thackeray obviously swears himself in.
And Egley says, thanks very much. If you could take a seat, tell me your full name, please, and your occupation, specialization, and that with the occupation.
Then PC Thackeray obviously says his name is Matthew David Thackeray. He's the police constable with Lancashire Constabulary currently seconded with NW Police Underwater Search Marine Unit, where he is formed as police diving duties.
Okay, and could you tell me your experience or qualifications in underwater search? And could you tell me about the experience as an A qualifications as an underwater search diver, please?
Then PC Thackeray says that he's been a police diver for 8 years. And during that time, he has searched for and recovered numerous bodies and pieces of evidence from underwater.
And he says, do you have any qualifications too?
And then PC Thackeray stated that he's done an 8-week course. It was in Greenock in Scotland, and that was confirming his position in the role.
Okay, that's okay. So just so that everyone else in court has the same understanding of how I tend to approach your evidence, because your evidence comes from a number of different parts. What I'm going to ask my officer to do is put up an aerial shot of the area so that you can talk through it, where the bench is, where the bend in the river is, where the bank is, etc. And then I'm going to ask you to deal with a number of images that are shown of the bank and the area surrounding the bench. Then I'm going to ask you to put up an aerial image of where Nikki was found so that we can see where the relationship is of the bench, the site she was recovered from, then only to play the first 2 of your videos of you moving down the river, which is approximately 16 minutes. And then we're going to go back into helping me with a description of the river on the day and the bank, and how getting into the river and how it was flowing, and what it was like in terms of temperature, flow, rate. Could you put your first aerial shot up now? So there's going to be a lot of referrals to aerial shots that we haven't got here. I just need to have that. We haven't got them here because he's talking about having a laser pointer to show things. So the coroner's just asking him to talk him through what it's going to look like from the overhead shot. What's around the field, what was in the field, that's going to be dealt with by Superintendent Becky Smith, which I don't think we've done Becky Smith yet, have we?
No, we can't remember whether we have or not, guys. Do you remember hearing?
I don't remember doing Becky Smith, but she covered what was on land in terms of the land side of things, and Thackeray's just going to talk about what was in the river. But if you could deal with start with a bridge, I'd be grateful, and then we'll take it from there.
You lost your way a bit then, didn't you?
I know it's because it's all this talking about laser pointers and stuff like that, but that's not really significant.
So Thackeray points to the area, which is the wooded area, with his laser pen, and shows that that's the path that goes along the river. And by the trees, there's the gate. Where the gate is, there is a bench, and when you come to this corner here, and that's where they believe that Nikki entered the water. And then he's saying about going downstream in the direction of the river, where it bends to the right, and then it gets over the weir, and then that's the section where water is more fast moving. And he says that big bend on the left and the road, it's approximately 530 meters from the bench. No, they haven't heard, so we got to do that next time as well then. I've transcribed it, I've just got to go through it.
Yeah, there's a few bits patchy because it says, okay, could you put question mark? These are a selection of pictures taken at a later date on the 4th of April 23. So can you talk me through what we're looking at here so that everyone understands what the area that we're talking about is? So there's a series of images and I understand you're familiar with them. And if you could just talk us through, and if you need to go back and forth, that's fine. Just ask the officers to reverse it.
Then PC Thackeray mentions, so the path that he mentioned before is the one coming through here to the gate. So that's the wooded area again, which is just under the tree. The path continues along to the riverbank. Here is the bench underneath the tree. Obviously, he's pointing his laser pen at the bench. And the slope down towards the river. The river flowed from here around the corner in this direction.
And I just put left to right just for you guys. So, okay, the way is downstream, off to the right.
And they put, yep, the weirs downstream, along with a small chunk. They keep interrupting each other on this. This is why it's...
Yeah. And this is a shot from a different angle.
So, and then Thackeray's put, yep, so the same place, but a different angle. And then again, he's showing the pathway, which is the wooded area, the bench under the tree, and the slope down towards the river and the river direction. And he put, so this goes to the bench so he's trying to show the slope and the gradient of it leading towards the river.
Okay, so the gate is somewhere to the right of the bench there, and the gate would be about here. So sorry, guys, because we're making reference. We're trying to point it out on the screen. I've got a map, but it isn't the map that we don't have the actual maps that we used in the inquest. Sadly, we've only got the audio. Yeah. This one was again.
That's Thackeray. So Thackeray said this one again is to try to show the slope and the extent of the slope leading down from the bench to the water's edge. And then he says, as you can see, there's a drop at the edge of the slope which goes down into the river.
Does that there? I believe there are two slopes. From what people have said, there's this slope, the bench down to where it happened, where it appears the river is, and then there's very much a vertical section down to the river. Is that?
Yeah, so basically what he's trying to get at there is there's that slope down from the bench and there's that vertical drop on the edge of the river.
Yeah, there's like a kind of bricked area, isn't there? There's been a brick, like a false brick wall formed, that forms part of the embankment of the river. So that's what he's referring to as the second part. And then the part up near the bench, that is sloped, but not so severely.
Yeah, so Thackeray said that's correct, which is fair. It is fairly steep, and then when you get to the point at the edge of the river, it drops off like a cliff edge. There's also a small cutout, and that the divers use to get in and out of the river. Perhaps the step down to the river bit is a bit easier.
It just shows again the angles.
And then he says yes, but you can see better that there's quite a large drop between the edge and the water.
and I appreciate it. On the 27th, the water was running higher, but roughly how high is that to drop into the river, please?
And then Thackeray says, so when he attended on the 27th, he thinks it was around a metre drop on the date in question. And then he states that they certainly had to be helped down with their diving equipment to actually get into the water.
Yeah, I can say that's probably true because of it, all the when you've got all the diving stuff on, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is showing the bank that can carry you down the path, allotment made upstream. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm being Thackeray. Aidley says, were you talking about the drop off again or getting in?
So he says, yes, this is some sort of crater area that he mentioned before. You don't know if it was the fishermen or whoever have cut that out for when they're fishing, but the slope come down to it, and you sort of got a halfway point where they've done the cut off. Elsewhere, the slope would just come down and go straight into the water. But as you can see, the cutted area, there's probably around half the height of the total drop, which what they use to get in and out.
Okay, and that wasn't created by you when you visited, was it? It was there when you got there.
And they put, yeah, Thackeray said, yeah, it was when we got there. It's difficult to show on the photos. That's probably one of the best ones to show how deep it is with the edge and the cutter area going through the water. As you can see, it's a fairly vertical drop.
And Dr. Aidley asks if you'd fallen and gone over the edge of the steep section, you're going to stop before you hit the water or not?
And he said, Thackeray replied, if you fall over the edge of the steep section, you're going to just hit the water.
All right.
Then he's put up a different angle from the bottom of the cutout, looking back up towards the bench, just again to show you how steep it is.
And then he says, okay, next. So I'm assuming that's the next slide.
Yeah. Thackeray, one actually from the inside wall in the water. So he's in the water now with this picture. And further down in this picture, the date is actually the 4th of April. I think it should be, and then he corrects himself saying, I think it should be the 5th of April, wrong date when I took the video of the water level. So you would have thought he would have had the correct dates, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah. But then he continues to say that it was certainly a lot lower. The water was a lot lower than when they attended on the 27th. He would say between 30 to 50 centimetres difference. And he said, I could tell because they could see some rocks in April, but they apparently couldn't see in January. And when he took the video on the 27th, the rocks weren't visible. So the water level had dropped and revealed some underwater features that couldn't be seen on the day. And then he states, we were there first.
And then Dr. Aidley says, the stone along the edge looks regular. Is that a wall that's being built in order to prevent erosion on the outside of the bend?
PC Thackeray thinks that's what it is. So it seems to be a man-made blocks that have been put in. I think the corner of the river had probably been eroded away, and assume some of the canals and river trusts at some point made some fortifications to stop it being worn away. And then he states again it's a man-made structure. it seems to be okay.
If you were just, as we were talking about it, the wall, if you were in the water and trying to get a foothold to climb out, would it be possible to easily find a foothold on it?
And then Thackeray said not at all. Then he states obviously that the divers were wearing heavy kit and weights to get them at the bottom of the water, and they were struggling and having to be hauled back up out of the water by people on the bank using limes to actually climb themselves up. It's very difficult.
And Dr. Ridley says, okay, sorry, as we're touching upon it, so when you arrive to get into the river, how did you manage to enter the river?
Justice, honestly, listening to trying to do this transcribe, it's I think so many times in it.
It's really frustrating, isn't it? Yeah, the vagueness of it.
Yeah. So the Thackeray says they set their dive kit up at the top of the cutout because they seemed to be there the best place to get in. The divers would sit on the step, fins on, and then jump effectively into the remaining part.
All right, so getting in, you've just jumped in. What's it like getting back out again?
Then Thackeray said getting back out, they would put the sidelines on. The divers will always have attached would always be attached to a line, so the handlers always know where they are. And when they get to the river edge, they literally hauled out of the water by the people on the side. It would take 2 to 3 people to pull a diver out. They too tried to climb as well, and at that point they removed their fins to try and get grip with their feet.
Dr. Ridley says, so you're in a very difficult position, but even taking that into account, it's difficult to get out of the river at that point, ?
And PC Thackeray says, yes, difficult, very difficult.
And then Dr. Ridley said, let's just finish the photographs.
Once again, PC Thackeray is in the water showing the bank, and he estimated a meter. Looks more than that when you consider these people are approximately 2 meters. But stepping down and then jumping in, it's probably just over a meter.
And then Adley just asked them to show the final picture.
Then he says, this is slightly further down around the bend. He's in the same position, but the camera just pans round to the left to show the banking of these rocks and the wall continuing all the way down. And there's nothing to grab hold of or to help yourself get back out of the water.
And then Dr. Ridley said, okay, all right. You can, now it's not perfectly clear on the right hand side, just there. That's where the bench is, and it flows downstream, and that's roughly the distance to roughly where Nicola was found.
And in fact, he puts the river, path of the river, that's about 1.5 miles. So he's saying that Nikki was found 1.5 miles away from the bench.
And Dr. Adley asks, just out of interest, were you involved in the recovery?
Thackeray says no.
No, okay. All right. With this, there is a commentary that you have made as you're going downstream. Just so I'm aware, you're in the water dressed in a dry suit and boots.
Thackeray says yes. So he was in a police issued dry suit. So basically, I'm floating, probably shoulder level in the river. Okay, it's full of air, so I'm floating. And just so everybody knows, I was vertically in the water, so my feet were down. I was floating along in a sort of standing position.
So can I just highlight this? He's in a dry suit, he's vertical, and he says, admits he's floating. So there's none of this reality of sinking that Nikki would have had or anyone would have had. So when he did hit all this, I'm pushing against, getting pushed along by the current. The current would be taking him because he'd be like, a Tesco blooming carrier bag in the water. He's not going to be like a normal person, is he? In a dry suit.
Yeah,
that's a very important point.
Yeah, and he admits full of air. He's even admitted that he's full of air when he's got his dry suit on.
He's full of air, all right. Have we got the video to play?
Got the video. So the next part of the inquest here is when they play PC Thackeray's video.
It's the video that got put on YouTube, isn't it? That gets played. If you've already seen it and you feel like you want to poke your eyes out watching it again, if you're watching after the moth, jump ahead, or if you're watching with us live, make a cup of tea. It's not the easiest sort of thing to watch, is it?
No.
But it's just very telling, isn't it, really? Why didn't they actually record themselves on the day when they were actually searching? Why didn't they just put a few body cams on a few officers, who were helping them get in and out of the river at the time? Is that rocket science or something?
I know, it would have been so much easier. Like, there would have been evidence of everything then, wouldn't there?
Yeah, exactly, because like things like the water levels were just taking it at his words when he's lying to us about being, going down, rapids, white water rapids. Oh, sorry, I mean the River Wire, which is not.
Me too.
Oh.
No. We'll just have to
Are
play
we ready for that?
Yeah, Joe's going to play it. And then we'll have to pause it halfway through. So I'm going to read through as he's talking, so I know where to pause it. Is there any sound? Yes.
Yeah.
Record some of the features of the River Wire near to Allotment Lane in relation to the Nicola Bulley inquest. Today is Tuesday the 4th of April 2023. The time by my watch is 11:07. Currently stood at the bench where we believe Nicola was last before she may have entered the water. As you can see, as you go down to the river, it is quite a steep slope. The river is probably down about half a metre from the day when we attended, when she went missing. As you can get to the bottom, you can see there's quite a large step down.
Wait a minute, I just thought of something. Right. So he said the water was half a metre down from the day in question. But at the inquest, he's saying that the water was approximately 1 metre to 2 metres down.
Yeah.
Just trying to find it again.
This is just shocking that they haven't got videos from the actual day. That would have been so helpful because literally they could just play body cam footage from the police, and where pictures say 1,000 words.
You say between 30 and 50 centimetres different, and here he's saying half a metre. Right, play. Sorry, guys.
Down into the water hopefully you can see on the screen, there's a pile of rocks. Those rocks constitute a wall that goes pretty much vertically straight down in the water to around 4 meters of depth. And then as you go out across the river, it slopes gently upwards with a sandy bottom towards the far bank. If I get into the water, it doesn't look like it's flowing very fast at all at the moment. On the day in question, you could see there was a steady flow downstream. At the moment we're above the weir, and the whole time we were here searching, the water was flowing downstream towards the weir. Once I get into the water here, you can see there are some trees that overhang into the water, but it's fairly clear at the point of entry. On both sides, there's nothing that could have stopped her, and you can see as we look back, the wall, as I said, goes pretty much straight down. It looks like it's man-made and to stop the erosion at the corner of the river. Now I'm into the middle of the river now, and it is pushing me downstream towards the weir. Probably around about walking pace, and it was certainly flowing a little bit faster on the day in question. On the day in question, the water was 4 degrees Celsius. To somebody who's not in a dry suit, that would feel very, very, very cold, almost freezing. And if it fell in accidentally, I think the cold water shock would have probably taken effect, which causes you to gasp, can cause your muscles to seize, so you can't swim properly. Underneath us now, as I dived on the first day, I know there are about 3 trees on the bottom, about 3.5 meters down here. We searched all around those trees and there was nothing caught up in them. So it's my belief that if she did fall in, she was probably floating and being pushed along in the flow. Once you get a little bit further down, you can probably see there's an island in the middle, and the first real snagging point onto the right there to the trees hanging into the water. Again, on the bottom here, it's very sandy. The water is quite murky, however we could see when we're on the bottom between about 1 meter and 2 meters using a torch. It gently slopes up to the left.
This game, you're not ready for
An ad in it.
Where it reaches the far bank. On the right hand side continues to be that wall. This far down, I believe there was a bit of a ledge about 1 meter under the water before the ledge came out, probably 1.5 meters before dropping down again to about 3.5 meters. As we get further down towards these trees, I remember the water, the bottom started to slope up, and I've just reached the bottom now. So quickly, you can see how quickly it slopes up. I am now standing up in the water. It's about 1.5 meters deep here. And this part was all searched on the night, as we could see through it using torches. I don't know if you can see on the screen, you can see the bottom here.
There you go.
It's completely flat, a few rocks. And the first place you could have had a body to be caught up really would be this tree. Obviously this was searched, there was no trace. As we move further towards where this island is, we get into about 100 meters from the point of entry.
Right. So then it goes back. Dr. Adley starts asking questions.
Hello. Hello. Sorry, I muted myself there. I was laughing. I'm sorry. Hang on a minute. Oh, I can't watch it, Adley. Right, so he says, all right, at this point, although you're thigh deep, can you get out of the river?
And he says, yeah, I think you could get out here. As you can see, the banks, there's more of a slope here rather than a wall. And because you're standing up, it's a lot easier to get out at this point.
And then Adley says, from what you said elsewhere in your statement, it's approximately 40 metres down stream from where the bench was. Is that?
And he says, yeah, correct. He estimated about 40 metres. At the time of the video of entering the water and being pushed along, it took about 3.5 minutes before he got back up on his feet.
As you talked about this on the video, you're talking about a river that's 1/2 metre lower than it was when you were there the first time. It is in there. Does 1/2 metre in depth affect the rate of flow on the day? On the day, was it flowing faster?
And he estimated it to be twice as fast on the 27th of January. Certainly looking at the surface on this day, it didn't appear to be moving anything like moving on the corner by the bench like it was on the 27th, but it was definitely downstream flow from the surface.
Okay, I think in your statement you estimate that the current approximately 2 knots, which is about 1 metre per second. So if that rate, at that rate, I think it means if you were, my understanding is that you were in the water for an hour, you'd be a mile down, or if you were in the water for a mile, you'd be a mile downstream if you didn't get snagged up on anything. Is that right?
Yeah. And he's put potentially, as you know, it's difficult to answer because of the different sizes of people that we be pushed at different rates. He thinks depending on the position that you were in the river, if you were top, middle or bottom, all of those things could affect it. However, he thinks it's fair to say it would definitely push someone along if you are unobstructed, as it's much shallower flow there, and that's by the weir, and moving along around at walking pace for most of it.
Dr. Egley says, so it's okay. On the 27th of January, it was a much faster flow. Also, you're on the outsides of a riverbed. Does that affect the speed in which you are moving?
And then Thackeray says yes, because different parts of the river, you'll be moving in different speeds. I think, again, I think I put again in there. He wants to get this right. He thinks around the outside, it's probably going to be moving faster.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's what you would expect on a bend in a river, and that's why the erosion protections are there, because of the river does move faster and does erode the bank, doesn't it, quicker? If that's the case on the day, how long do you think it would take you if you came down the bank and up in the river fairly close to the bank. How long do you think? I appreciate it's going to be an estimate, but you've timed it at 3.5 minutes when the river is much lower on the day. It would have obviously been shorter. How long do you think it would have taken to get to the first point where you could stand up?
And then Thackeray says again, I think it could be at least 2 to 3 minutes. If you're not swimming or anything like that, or should I say, if you're not swimming or anything like I was, unless the river is just pushing you between 2 to 3 minutes, but that's just a guess.
And Dr. Agley says, I'm not seeking to criticise you in any way. I'm just exploring the facts. You estimated that the river is running at 2 knots for about 1 metre per second. Once you've built up speed so that you're flowing, because I understand that, if you are within a body of water, you tend to pick up a pace of that body of water and move with it, or maybe slightly slower. If that body of water is moving at 1 metre per second at the first place that you can stand by the depth is 40 metres downstream, is it not quite a bit less than 2 or 3 minutes? Don't you think it all depends on what you're doing?
And then PC Thacker puts says, yeah, well, I think you won't be. You won't be, as a person won't be flowing at 1 metre per second. You're going to just be pushed along much slower than that.
And Aidley says, okay, so you think 1 or 2 to 3 minutes is more accurate?
I've got to say this without laughing. PC Thackeray puts or says, I think so, yes.
It's all I'm trying to really try and keep the thing in it. No. I'm just checking because it comes down. It comes down to there. If you just want to read that the water is moving 1 metre per second, that means 40 seconds later you should be able to stand up. It's high depth. If you're not moving as quickly in the water, and your estimate is that of 2 to 3 minutes, get there, that's an awful lot longer when you're in very cold water. All right, so we sort of digress. It's not a problem. Is there anything further that you want to say before we go back to the footage now?
And then they go back to the footage, so let's watch again.
That is quite a good challenge by the coroner, to be fair, because obviously if he's saying that she would, the water's flowing, it's taking her really, really fast, and then she gets to a point where she should stand up, then technically she should simply just be able to stand up.
Yeah.
So yeah. That is a really good point, actually. I liked his line of questioning there, to be honest.
Right.
I don't think Thackeray did.
No.
Point of entry. Once again, it gets deeper and deeper, and this was dived on a subsequent day. We searched around the front of the island here, and nothing was found on the actual day. I'm currently off the bottom again.
Sorry, I just want to state, he said that they searched around the front of the island that day. What about all around the sides and the back of the island?
Yeah, which according to Peter Folding is where Nikki actually should have been.
Yep.
That's where his sonar.
Yeah, apparently she's on the right-hand side, so... Right, play.
We searched around the front of the island here, and nothing was found on the actual day. I'm currently off the bottom again, so it's over 1.5 meters deep here. I think from memory, and dive further down later, it's about 3 meters deep just past, sorry, it's about 2 meters deep just past this island. And then once again, we start coming up to the first right hand bend. The water starts to shallow out, and very shortly I imagine I'll be able to touch the floor again. I'm not swimming along at all here, I'm just letting the flow take me. Like I say, it's a slower flow than on the day in question, but it's
He's
still
flowing slow, man.
Happily walking pace. If you can see us moving along the bank. Again, you can see a small overhang of trees as the river bends to the right. Still not touching the bottom. It's around 2 meters deep here.
You think?
Did he say he's still not touching her bottom?
Sandy and flat with a few rocks
still
on
not
it.
Touching the bottom.
I know there was a tree here as
Her
well.
bottom.
It was located on sonar that was dived and searched all around. And just as we get to the apex of the corner, my feet have just touched the ground now, so it's probably around 1.5 meters deep here. Again, nothing on the bottom at all that would hold anything up. No overhanging trees that could have really been a snag. And we searched in a line on the night she went missing, all the way from here down to the weir, as it gets shallower and shallower from here. Now looking about 1 meter's depth. Hopefully you can see on the screen, you can see the bottom. And there's nothing on it. As we get around the corner, because it gets shallower and slightly narrower, the water starts to pick up in pace as you get towards the weir.
Are you sick of having issues with your webinars, wasting tons of time on troubleshooting with attendees? If
Are
so,
you sick of hearing Thackeray's reports on this river?
The exit of this corner is about 200 meters from the point of entry. Again, if you can see the bottom, completely sandy.
You got an advert then?
Nothing there to cause any kind of snag.
Yeah, it's gone.
And we're confident on the day in question that she wasn't in this area.
Yeah, he's walking now, Justice.
The depth across the river, which I think is about 20 meters wide, is fairly consistent. Completely flat here, man-made banks on both sides.
He forgot his white water rapid boat, didn't he? Obviously, that's just the water you need for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see there are some slightly bigger rocks, probably fallen away from the side, but all of these were searched, and there was nobody here on the day in question.
Yeah, Justice, because there he's just showing how shallow
Probably
it
see
is.
from the state of the river now, like I said, it's picking up in speed. Tries to sit down in this water.
How it is there is how I most remember it when we went there around about the time of the
Taking me along.
inquest.
Yeah.
Quite a bit faster. Let's try and measure it from the side.
But he's like, from what he's saying in his statement and everything, he believes
now
Nikki's
probably
floated all of this way really quickly.
Slow jogging pace.
And how shallow it is, you can see the bottom. You would see her. People would see her floating. Yeah, no, that was classic.
People would have been on the lookout for her. There were search parties out looking for her, and if some of them would have gone near the bench, but a lot of them would have kept out that area and maybe gone further on downstream, so that past the bridges, more towards where she was found.
Mm-hmm.
In front of us.
So there were a lot of eyes out looking for her, and I just don't believe that.
The weir's around about 300 metres
no one see
from
her.
the point of entry.
Yeah, but she wouldn't float anyway.
As you get towards it, water now is
all the drowning
deep on me.
experts say you stink, don't
we
they?
do think it's down
Yeah.
a little bit from the day in question. But if you're floating, there's still more than enough water to push you along.
Exactly, Justice, and they was all out. Even the drones were out.
They had the drones, the helicopters, they had the fire brigade. They were the first people in the water looking for her, and with boats.
Again, all of this was searched on the night in question by officers wading in a line, and we could see the whole width of the river. As you get to the weir itself, hopefully you can see there's a lip, but there's a lot of water going over it, even though the water is now down from where it was on the day.
Now he's fastening that dry suit to get over that. Now he's saying everything. Oh, no, stop.
Straight into
get over that.
the flowing water at the bottom.
Go on.
It's not powerful enough. There's not a big enough drop on the other side to stop.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Not
Again,
powerful
we did
enough.
search the other side of that weir to make sure there was nothing trapped in it. So I stand up now. It's waist deep, flowing faster. The bottom is rocky, difficult to stand up on. It does shallow to here, where I'm about knee deep. Now below the weir, this river is tidal, so it can flow in both directions. Again, when we were here, it was all flowing downstream on the day. But I believe at the time she went missing, it would have been low tide. So before we arrived, there would have been a high tide that pushed things back up, and then it would have started ebbing away as we started diving. I believe the fire brigade are searching downstream, and they were here before we arrived. We arrived about 3 p.m. and started diving at 4 p.m.
So did you hear that? The fire brigade were there before they arrived, but in the inquest, he stated that they was there first. So which one is it?
Yeah. I only know that the fire brigade was there first because of newspaper articles that reported on it. The press were there.
Yeah, at the inquest, he said we was there first. So it can't be one or the other. You know, it can't be they was there first, but the fire brigade were there first. Okay.
Because the reason given,
sandy bank,
it's voluntary.
over to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And they
see there are some trees.
They had to get all the divers together, didn't they?
Yeah.
From the police
I believe the fire brigade were in a boat and were searching in and around all of these snag hazards. Still currently waist deep.
Simon, that made me laugh.
And there are some more trees on this right hand bank that potentially could have been a snag hazard. In the middle of the river here, there is a shallow sandbank. There's a channel that runs to the right and to the left where it's deeper. I'm just coming onto the sandbank now. I'm coming up from waist deep to shin deep. But on either side,
Got that now. I'm bored of this. Watch no more of that. So, right, get back to the inquest.
Yeah. So I think Dr. Aidley just says, thank you very much. Just to go back over a few things on the day of the 27th of January when you were in the water, I believe you measured the temperature of the water. Its estimated visibility. What was it, please?
So he estimated the visibility to be about 2 meters. And the water temperature, which was showing on his dive computer, was 3.6.
Now, we went on the anniversary and we were there when it was a lady from the Rivers,
The environmental
Rivers
health.
and Environment Agency, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah.
She came out and she took the river temperature reading, and it was, what, 7.3?
Yeah.
So it was 7.3 the following year. And that was like to the day, wasn't it, of when that was on the 27th of January this year.
Yeah, but it was obviously not freezing this year.
It wasn't freezing, no. It was, there was cold air, wasn't there, blowing. We were wrapped up, but it was oh, there she is there on the picture. But yeah, it was the sunny day, wasn't it? It was,
Yeah.
They'd had a lot. The water was deeper. I don't know how it works actually. The water was a lot deeper, yet the temperature of the water was a lot warmer.
Yeah.
And going back to Aidley, so he asks, all right, in terms of you as a police diver in the river that day, what was it like being in the river? Were you able to swim upstream? I appreciate you were in a dry suit, which is you've got fins on, but if you were in the water just trying to swim, could you swim against the current?
Then Thackeray says that they could swim against the current, but it was an exertion to do so. You could feel the river pushing you downstream. So remember, downstream's going towards the weir, upstream's going the opposite direction. The way they search, they have a type line, and effectively to be arched from one side to the other. That gives them a bit more line and arc again. But every time he was swimming against the flow and back up the river, it was physically exertion. Again, they was wearing a lot of heavy kit, the weights and pins, and they was having to pull themselves along the bottom to get upstream. But so he was asking him about the day in the question, and the day in question, he just had a dry suit on. He didn't have diving gear on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because on the 27th of January last year, he was wearing full dive kit, and then on the video, it was just a dry suit, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
So it wouldn't take any exertion to swim in a dry suit because you're floating already, aren't you?
Yeah. Yep.
So that's weird. So Dr. Aidley says, so it required considerable efforts. And he says, yeah, and then he asks, how tall are you, and what do you weigh?
And he said he's 6'1", and he weighs about 99 kilos.
And then Nikki is 59 kilos. And she's 5'4"?
Yeah.
So obviously with less body mass, it's going to be harder, a harder time. Would that be fair?
Thackeray replies, yes, I thought so, yes.
And then Dr. Aidley says, fine. Can I just ask you about your experience of other people entering freezing cold rivers? There isn't that sufficiently swallow I think that's time to swallow.
Shallow.
If people stand up, but they could still drown. Can you tell me more about what you've about some of the deaths that you've attended to? I don't want individual details. I just want to know the effects of cold water can have on someone.
Then Thackeray says that he's attended a number of deaths in canals. A lot of the time that you'd only be chest deep on a person, a flat bottom with no water flow. And if you were trying to avoid drowning, keep calm and stand up and climb out should be relatively easy to do. It doesn't happen when they enter the cold water. Pretty sure it's down to cold water shock. You gasp, you breathe in water, and those drownings could have been prevented if you kept calm and keep your head above water. He thinks the circumstances, it's not simple, but can't put your feet down. The river is moving away from the closest point of safety. And even if you go back to the point of safety, it's difficult to climb out. So I think it would have been a lot more difficult.
And then the coroner says, okay, I believe you've tried going across the river to the other side and climbing out on the other bank. Could you do that?
And he said, yes, there was some reports on the other bank that as he was diving, there was possibly some footprints on the other side where the sandy bank is. But they didn't actually come down as far as the water. And when I got over there to try and have a look at them, I was unable to climb out in order to see them.
Nadley says, so okay, if you were not in police, fins, aqualogging, dive, computers, vests, whatever, do you think you'd have been able to get out?
And in fact, he puts, yes, I think on the other side of the river, he would have been able to crawl out, but without all that gear on. Because there's a lower sandy bank where you could climb out, and there was just a step up to where the footprints potentially were.
And then Dr. Adley says, all right, I'm going to ask Professor Tipton and Dr. Morgan about cold water shock, because they're experts in this. Is there anything further regarding your dive experience that you think I ought to have asked about, but I haven't? I've asked this to all my witnesses because it gives you an opportunity, if I've missed something, a section of evidence that you think is important to you, but you haven't had the opportunity to tell me.
Thackeray says that the only thing that he can think of is there were some submerged trees not far from the bench that were sticking up with their branches up into the water from the bottom. So sort of mid-river. They searched around those on the days, but for me, because there was nothing caught up in there, that would have been sort of a main flow of the river. It suggests to me that I think someone would have been floating along to get past those obstructions. So there he's trying to say, like, because she wasn't snagged up in these, she must have just floated away. That's what I'm getting from them.
Right. My issue with this, and it's a big issue, is I've been to that river 3 times, and each time I've thrown something in the water near the bench, and not once on any of these occasions has it ever floated downstream the way you would expect it to go.
Yeah.
Well, we flew the flowers in the river,
Yeah,
and even the following day, they went upstream and they stayed upstream till the following day. They were still upstream, weren't they?
Yeah.
So it's called an ebbing flow, isn't it? And it's obviously an issue at that bench area. So if Nikki were to have gone in there, there's a likelihood that she could have gone not downstream but upstream, and none of this has come
She
out.
wouldn't have gone straight into the middle of the river. She would have been stuck in that ebby flow, which would have gone upstream. Into those trees where the flowers were caught.
Yeah, because it was only the flowers. I noticed it was only the flowers that got thrown more into the centre of the river that actually made it to go downstream. The ones that landed nearer the bank that we were stood on, they flew up. They got carried up, you know, the opposite way to what you would expect them to go.
Yeah. Busting It Beauty. They didn't know. No one picked up on those footprints. No one picked up, like Adley didn't even comment on them or nothing.
Yeah, that's you just thought somebody was. That wasn't in the media, was it?
No.
So I think we're still on here now. So it occurred to me when you were videoing the river. There's one thing that occurred to me when you were videoing the river going down. How much water was there going over the top of the weir in terms of depth on that day?
And Thackeray put, that's probably a foot of water with centimetres. I think.
I think. He just wants to say, I don't fucking know. So, and then Dr. Adley says, okay, on the day, I believe the Environment Agency who gathers this data said there was 50 centimetres of water going over the weir. Would you, given that the river, you were in that river that day, would you think that's a reasonable estimate?
Yeah, that's probably right. Justice, that's on the opposite side of the river. So not the bench side. So what's the difference between a foot?
Anyone good at maths here? What's the difference between a foot of water and 50 centimetres? Is that half? How many centimetres is in a foot? Does anyone in chat know? I've just got too many things opened on my laptop to check. Because that's the Environment Agency.
30 centimetres is 1 foot.
Okay, so yeah, so that sounds about right then. Well, the Environment Agency, he said, who gathered this information, they've actually got like a little building next to the weir, haven't they?
Yeah.
Is that like a little wooden building with the steps right next to the weir, isn't there?
Yeah.
They were using the red brick building as it, but that looks like just storage now. But that's where they physically work from. The girl was telling me.
Yeah, it's not that brick building no more.
Yeah, that's just storage and So
right, we've got a few pages left of Thackeray.
Yeah, so we'll go
right one.
So when you went over the wire, you're in a fairly buoyant suit that wouldn't be the same as Nikki's situation, is it?
He put no normal clothing by then would be probably waterlogged, but I certainly think there's enough water to push someone over.
Okay, thank you very much. Just stay there for a moment. Miss Cartwright, so Miss Cartwright, if you don't know, is the Bully family solicitor or lawyer. Yeah, she's just the legal representative for the Bully family, and she asks did I think you indicated you're going to play a second piece of footage? I don't know whether you have. And then Dr. Ailey says, oh yes, I have. When we were having difficulties changing it over, I think it was somewhere around the 200 meters downstream after the island, with the shallow bank in the middle of the water. That was the second section, so they've seen that already. And then Miss Cartwright says, thank you. Just a few questions. PC Thackeray, thank you for your footage that you've provided. And can I just appreciate that the coroner's already covered it with you, that you were going to have some expert evidence from Professor Tipton and Dr. Morgan. We both, but we heard both on the video footage that you played there, also touched on it with the coroner, that in your experience, you've been able to comment about water shock, and you think I think you described in your commentary, we heard that if somebody was to accidentally fall in the water, I think you described that with it being a freezing day, in your expert experience, it causes the person to gasp, and I think you described it in the footage as their muscles seize.
Danvers, I'm not sure exactly where the footprints were found. He just said over the other side where there's the sandy bank.
So directly across from the bench is where that they called it the abandoned mansion. That's over in that direction, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't state in the inquest where exactly. Obviously, Adley asked where he could climb out the other side. He mentioned the sandy bank, and he mentioned there were footprints there, but he doesn't actually state where exactly they were found. So moving on from that, Thackeray said that he believes so. It comes from the advice given that if you fall into cold water, you try to float, because if you try to swim, you're impaired.
And then Miss Cartwright says, and I think you described that within your witness statements, as it impacts upon your motor function.
And then Thackeray says, yeah, again, I think it just makes it difficult to swim. That's why the advice is to try and float for the first couple of minutes until the panic and the shock has worn off, and then you can try to swim to safety. Because it becomes difficult and you tire out very quickly. I believe your limbs actually see motor functions aren't as effective.
And Miss Cartwright says, thank you. Now you've dealt with the coroner with various changes in what we see in the footage to how the river, there were various changes in the footage to how the river was on the date of the 27th of January. But can you assist in respect to this? I think there's some evidence that we're going to hear from the experts at the depth where it's likely Nicola entered the water. There's about 4'6" meters on the day. Can you assist?
Becky put, yes, I dived on the first day and the deepest part that we got to was 4.6 meters. And according to my, that was according to his dive computer.
And Miss Cartwright says, I think we know that Nikki was 164 centimetres. You come on that within your witness statement that we've not touched upon that naturally. If someone accidentally falls into the water, it's your experience that person would try and exit the water, the place where they entered it.
And then Thackeray says that's his guess. He thinks that's just the closest point to safety. So I think that's where it initially aimed for. If that's where you initially aim for if you fell in.
And Miss Cartwright says, thank you. And I think you've already dealt with this in particular difficulties in terms of the land, as to what we've seen on the footage and the steepness of the slope. And I think you've also dealt with the fact that the river was flowing far faster on the day than what we've seen on the footage, which would have been another complexity.
And then Thackeray replies, yes, I mean, on the day it did look like the river was flowing very fast, but in terms of underwater being pushed along, he said it was like physical exertion to swim against it.
Miss Cartwright thanks him. And then Dr. Radley says, okay, thank you very much, PC Thackeray. I'm grateful if he remains in court until the next 3 witnesses have given their evidence. If there is a question as to the river that you're the person that's been in it, so if you could take your seat again, I'd be grateful. But thank you very much. So we're off, Thackeray.
Yes, finally.
Oh, I hate it. Honest to God, there's so many questions that come to mind there. Wouldn't it just be so much easier if they just recorded it on the day? Just make that like practice that they record everything, every search on the day. Just have a log, just in case things end up in court or a coroner's office.
Yeah. Danvers, what I'll do is I'll have a look at our photos and see if I can find out whereabouts they're on about by the bench area with the sandy bank. I'll have a look.
Yeah,
if I can
I've
find
got
something,
photos.
I'll send it to you.
I've got photos of us standing at the bench and a photograph across the water. So we'll see what it looks like on the bank across, and I can zoom in as well.
Yeah.
And I'll try and find that for us so that we can see what's over there. Because there's the sandy bank is really, really much upstream, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's,
when you hear sandy bank, I think of the one past the weir, you know, in that corner where they fish quite a lot.
Yeah. And there's a sandy bank where we were watching, where the swans were, and then there's a sandy bank if you go past the red brick building and keep on going to that corner, there's a big sandy bank there that looks like a beach where we were going to try and set the floating candles off.
Yeah, but I wouldn't assume that they would be searching there. They would have been searching by the bench. So I need to look at the photos.
Yeah. But yeah, I will. I know in some of my pictures from that I took from just next to the bench across the river, that they'll show what's across, so we can see if it looks like an exit way out.
Joe's put one up. Yeah, it looks like that there just before on that bend. That looks like a sandy bank. But what I'll do is I'll send it to you, Danvers, and then you can have a look as well. Right, so the next part of the inquest is Dr. Rebecca Gray, which was Nicola's doctor, and Teresa Lewis Leevy, which was the mental health nurse that got called out on the 10th of January. So just be wary. This might be a bit hard to hear, some of this. So just want to put that out to you. Right, I'll let you read the first bit.
Sorry, just getting it. Oh,
you get it out. Do you want me to do it?
Just bear me 1 moment. I'm just clicking onto the right one. Yeah, I've got it now. Got it.
You got it.
Yeah. Just Go up to the top. Yeah. So we have got Dr. Rebecca Gray and Teresa Lewis-Leevy, and so Dr. Adley says, "Hi, Miss Cartwright, Miss Fowler. Are there any matters you wish to discuss?" I think that's a legality thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just because it's the next day.
It's yeah, but Miss Cartwright is just talking about she's talking about Mr. and Mrs. Bully give their evidence, and can they give a brief statement? I don't think that we need to read that now.
No, I don't think we've got that on here.
So Dr. Rebecca Gray, so she gets sworn in, and the coroner says, "Good morning. Could you tell me your full name and your occupation?"
And she says she's Rebecca Gray. She's a GP partner at Great Eccleston Health Centre.
And the coroner says, "Okay, I understand that Nikki was one of your patients."
She replies,
Rebecca Green, yeah, she was, and then she joined the health centre in August 2012, and she's been involved in Nikki's care since September 2013.
Correct.
And so, okay, all right. Now, in December 2018, Nikki consulted you for some symptoms concerning anxiety. Can you tell me about that, and what was she prescribed, and the checks that were made?
Dr. Rebecca Gray says, yes, so in December 2018, Nikki presented with low mood and anxiety and was started on citrapilam. Can't speak now. 20 milligrams of antidepressant medication and SSRI.
The coroner says, okay, did that resolve all the issues?
In 2 months later, in 2019, that's February 2019, she was commenced on propranolol, which is a beta blocker. So propranolol is used for anxiety, and there might be physical symptoms. Oh, it's issued when there might be physical symptoms of anxiety, so tremors, things like that. And she started on propranolol in February 2019.
The coroner asked what the dose was.
And it was 40 milligrams, 1 to 2 times a day.
And the coroner asks, and that's a dose that's in line with her current prescribing.
And Dr. Rebecca Gray says, yes, it's actually, well, you can take it up to 3 times a day, but she was prescribed 1 to 2 a day.
And the coroner says, okay, so toxicology showed that the dose for propranolol was in her blood, but it was within the therapeutic range. Does propranolol have any side effects? And did you check for any of these?
Dr. Rebecca Gray says, so propranolol is a beta blocker. It can cause low blood pressure, so low heart rate. She did in March 2019 have a blood pressure checked, which was around a month after starting the medication. She was checked further 5 times at the surgery, and the last was on June 2022.
And were all those blood pressures normal?
And Dr. Rebecca Gray says, yes, the one in March 2019. So you've got the top number on the heart rate and the bottom number. In March 2019, the bottom number was slightly low, but all the other readings were normal. And she was reviewed by the GP 2 days after that. Slightly low blood pressure. There was no comment of feeling lightheaded, dizzy, or any other symptoms that you would get with low blood pressure.
And then the coroner says, okay, your blood pressure just goes up and down. Activities that you're doing can decrease and increase quite naturally. Yeah, that's it. And so all the checks that you performed from the propranolol, she had no propensity to have a sudden fainting attack or anything.
And Dr. Rebecca Gray says, no, there was nothing like that. There was no notes to say that that had been the case.
All right, just to understand, if you undertake exercise, I understand your blood pressure normally rises. So if you're walking a dog around the field, would you expect your blood pressure to rise and not drop?
Yes, if the pressure would go up, your heart rate would go up.
And the coroner says, oh, all right. Now I understand she had a number of follow-up appointments for the propranolol and reported that this had eased some of her symptoms, and didn't complain of any difficulties in the last one. And it was on the 8th of March 2019. So this medication, this is a medication she's been taking for quite a while, and she doesn't have any side effects.
No, it was added to the repeat prescription around the time and requested over the next few years.
Now, in terms of her other appointments, in July 2021, she presented to you. What did she present with on that occasion, please?
So she presented hot flushes and the fact that she hadn't had a period as she would have done, expected for a number of months.
Okay, and what did you consider was the cause, and what did you do?
So they said that they discussed menopause, arranged a blood test to check the hormone levels, and it was repeated a couple of months later because that's the standard practice, and both those tests were consistent with her being perimenopausal.
All right, so what did you do, or what did you discuss with her? What did you do with the results?
They discussed starting HRT, a hormone replacement therapy. She sent some information to Nikki to read over the different types of HRT that you can take. And then in October 21, they commenced taking HRT.
And did you follow up the woman with the menopause to commence in the HRT? Did you follow up women
Do
with
you
the
follow
menopause?
up?
I think it does. Do you follow up?
So yes, it's standard practice to be reviewed depending on the symptoms after about 3 to 6 months. Nikki had contacted them back within a month and started to say that she had some headaches since being on the HRT.
And the coroner asks, is that a side effect of HRT?
Yeah, it can be.
And what did you do? And so this is the November 2021, I think, isn't he talking about?
And then she states that it was October 21 they changed the prescription of the HRT, which again is something that they can do if you're having particular side effects. They tweaked the HRT and tried to elevate those, and that's what they did with Nikki. They changed the prescription and the HRT and followed up 2 weeks later, and she said the headache symptoms had been resolved.
Okay, did you follow her subsequently to that, or did a nursing practitioner follow up?
So in January 2022, she had followed it up, and at the time she presented with fatigue and saying that she felt more anxious.
Was there a reason for this?
And as she stated in the notes, it was documented that she had started a new job, and she found it to be particularly stressful.
Okay, so did you investigate this?
They discussed about her anxiety symptoms, and with the anxiety, she also mentioned feeling fatigue. So they did some blood tests again, which is quite common to do if someone presents with fatigue. All those blood tests come back normal. So they put the anxiety and fatigue down due to her starting new work. It was documented to offer help with mental health, but she preferred to see how things would settle down.
All right. And the levels of anxiety, you also mentioned back in 2018, she complained of low mood. What was at this point? Was a discussion had in terms of thoughts of self-harm or suicide, and what was the result?
And she replies that from their notes, like their records from 2012, there's never been any mention of feeling suicidal or any mention of self-harming.
And the coroner says, all right, so after the consultation, where she was fatigued with her new job, I think that's the last time that you see her, on the 14th of February 2022.
That was to go over some blood test results in the February, and that was the last time that she had a consultation with her. They agreed to go see how the job was going, and she was due for a HRT review in about 8 weeks after that. I said I'll see her for a review for the HRT and see how her mood was.
And the coroner asked what happened at her next HRT review.
The next HRT review was done by a nurse practitioner. Oh my God, I'm getting dry mouth, that's why. At the time, it was documented that Nikki appeared quite emotional at the appointment, and her anxieties had increased, and she had low mood again. The decision was made to try and amend the HRT. So the HRT was increased. I'm just going to have a quick drink.
So the coroner says, and that is something that you can normally commence for somebody on HRT if they require it, adjusting it as you go along. And she says, yeah. And was there any further follow-ups after that?
And then it was documented that in June that Mr. Boats, a nurse practitioner, had asked her to make an appointment in around 2 months' time to see how she was getting on with the change with the HRT. And she was then followed up in October 2022.
And okay, how did she respond to the increase in her HRT in the follow-up appointment in October?
It was documented that she was tolerating the change of the dose well, but she did mention that she was struggling with sleep, and stated again that her work was the cause of this.
And the coroner asks, can you have disturbances of sleep with HRT, or is that down to work, or could it just be any number of reasons?
She thinks it's multifunctional. Sleep is quite complex, you know. It's hard for her to say that the sleep was due to the HRT. The explanation that she had given the nurse practitioner was that she was busy, and she described her brain felt like it was overloaded.
And the coroner says, in terms of how people deal with sleep or whatever, there are some people who turn up and want to take tablets that knock you out, and there are other people who just get on with it. What did or how did Nikki choose to treat her sleep?
She mentioned that she was taking Nortol, you know, the stuff that you buy over the counter.
That's herbal, isn't it?
Yeah, she tried other things to help. She mentioned that she tried sleeping spray, you know, the lavender spray that you can get for the pillows, and herbal tea. The nurse documented other alternatives. I don't know what was mentioned, but there was no prescription of any sleeping tablets, so no indication that Nikki had asked for a prescription.
And then the coroner says, I think on the 11th of January, you received a report from Blackpool A&E because Nikki had presented there. Could you tell me about that, please?
She said that it was documented on the 11th of January. Nikki was seen at Fleetwood Walking Centre. She presented with an injury to the back of her head following a fall the previous evening. On the 11th of January, it says that she was complaining of increased drowsiness and she vomited. So at that point, she was directed to A&E from the walking centre as protocol in the situation. She had a CT head scan and it was normal.
And the coroner said the drowsiness and vomiting is what you're worried about. There might be a bleed inside the brain. Inside the skull would be more accurate. But the CT scan was clear and showed no injury at all.
And she replied, yeah, it was all completely normal.
And the coroner says, okay, fine. If I could just take you back one aspect of your notes. This is because I didn't cover it properly in terms of the prescription of HRT. You have the consultation with her on the 5th of October, and she complains about the headaches, and you changed her feel. Different presentation. She tells you in the next presentation that she'd stopped the HRT in 2021. Did she say what effects had it had on her and what was driving this?
She replies, so between the consultations that he mentioned, she says she stopped the HRT over Christmas because she felt that it was potentially causing a low mood, but she had restarted it and felt that that it also improved her hot flushes.
And the coroner says, thanks very much. Is there anything further that you think I ought to have asked about Nikki's condition that are relevant to this inquest? But I don't know if it might assist you. The Home Office pathologist says that she found no natural disease in Nikki that would account for anything that she says there's nothing to find. But is there anything else you think might have contributed, and you want to comment on it? As
no,
I ask,
nothing. Yeah, no, nothing.
Oh, and then the coroner asks if there's any comments from Miss Cartwright, and she says it's long, Thanks, nothing, sir. And the coroner says, okay, thank you very much, doctor. And he says, I know you've got other commitments, so if you wish to leave court, you may. And she says, thank you. And then it's Theresea Lewis Levy's turn. Are we ready for her?
So this is the mental health nurse that got called out on the 10th. Is everyone doing okay? Because I know this is it's not hard. It's not easy reading this, and it's probably not easy hearing this either.
Yeah, it's hard to. It is hard, isn't it, when you think of it all going through what she went through before she passed and everything. Especially like some of the stuff is very, very close to when she went missing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah. So as always, Theresea Lewis Leevy, she gets sworn in, and then she takes the seat. So she's asked to confirm her full name.
She's Theresea Lewis Leevy.
And what is your occupation, please?
I'm a mental health clinician.
Okay, in January 2023, can you tell me what role you had, please?
So her role was working with the home treatment team. She worked on the cynical vehicle which operates across the far coast, and on the 10th of January, that was her role.
And the coroner says, I'm sorry, I didn't catch what part of the home treatment team you were. I missed.
Then again, she says she works with the cynical vehicle, which is a mental health emergency response vehicle that covers the far coast.
And the coroner says, okay, thank you. Now I understand that. We'll hear evidence in the moment that Louise Cunningham, who's Nikki's sister, made a call for some assistance with a sister, and you attended on the 10th of January 2023. Can you tell me what information was on the NWS call log, please?
So the information that they received on the NWS call was from the family, be made in the connection of Nikki's increased alcohol use, and they were concerned about this and were looking for support.
And the coroner says, okay, I think there's also on the call log it says that she'd not wanted to engage with the children.
That's correct.
And she'd made a statement of not wanting to be here, although the meaning of that was unclear.
That's correct, yeah.
So you arrive at Nicola's home address. Could you tell me what happened then, please?
So they arrived at the family's address around 7:30. They was greeted by Nikki's sister and Nikki's partner. They were shown to the living room where they had a conversation around the nature of the call, why they had attended and what support that they could offer. They were informed by the family of increased alcohol use from about the Christmas time, and it was a conversation that entitled the general concerns of Nikki's welfare in terms of alcohol use.
And the coroner says, okay, I'm not trying to trip you up here. I'm trying to assist you in your statement. It says you had a conversation concerning concern for her safety. Obviously, that relates to the question about not wanting to be here. But you also go on to say the increase in alcohol use because she stopped her prescribed medication to help with the symptoms of menopause. Okay?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. And this started since about Christmas. Did the family say there was any particular precipitation factor for this? Was where was Nikki at this time?
They was told that Nikki was in bed. They went upstairs in the bedroom. Once they had the conversation with the family in the living room, they asked to go up to see and have a conversation with Nikki. They all went upstairs to the bedroom, but it proved to be a little overcrowded. So Nikki's sister, partner, the police officer, and the paramedic that was with them on the Synergy vehicle left, and herself and the trainee nurse assistant remained in the bedroom with Nikki, where they had the conversation with her.
Okay. Just so that perhaps I would have asked about this earlier, can you explain what the Synergy service is and who crews the vehicle that it is? And it's every time I click on the screen, I keep on getting things flagging up. Sorry. So yeah, who crews the vehicle? This is not something that's specific to Nikki. It's a service that's offered as part of an emergency response. But who crews the vehicle, please?
And she said it's NWAR. So paramedic, a police officer, and a mental health clinician. So they're all under the same.
Ambulance service is a service principally to deal with mental health issues.
That's correct.
Is trying to treat them in the community before they escalate, and you require more intensive investigation and treatment.
So the fundamental role of the Synergy vehicle is to reduce the number of 136 presentations to A&E department and to address as many mental health crises in the community as possible.
Okay, let me see if I can tell if I'm right about this certain mental health presentation. As such that you have left concern about. You have a concern about somebody's safety and the difficulty, which is that of Section 136 of the Mental Health Act allows you to remove that person to a place of safety. Would that be fair?
It allows the police to remove someone to replace safety.
The police to do so. The difficulty with using these powers is that the police are not the best people for dealing with mental health casualty, where they might take them to a place of safety is not always the best place to resolve the mental health issue, and taking them to a police station as a place of safety, it is normally doesn't happen, or doesn't increase somebody's mental health. Sorry about this. It's because it's the way it's transcribed here. Would it be fair so that so what you're trying to do is avoid the situation by de-escalating it in the community?
So what they're trying to do here is like Theresa Lewis Lively and the Synergy vehicle. So basically they're there so the police don't have to take someone out of a situation and put them in a police cell.
Yeah, so that in the corridors
was trying to get across there, yeah.
The best place.
So she put absolutely.
Yeah, and okay, and so now after you've all gone up because you don't know what you're going to meet. How did you find Nikki?
So Nikki was in the bedroom at that time, and she was sat on the bed.
Was she appropriately dressed?
Yes, she was. She had leggings and a vest top on. Her hair was loose. She had no shoes or socks on. She looked ready for bed. She engaged initially when they explained who they were and why they was there. This was after the police officer and paramedic had left and gone downstairs. She sat on the bed and the training nurse assistant stood at the bottom of the bed. And they started by introducing themselves, explaining why they were attending, asking Nikki how she was feeling. And they had a conversation, and the conversation flowed from there.
And the coroner asks, in terms of Nikki, when you were looking at her, was she intoxicated or not?
Hold on. News Brunswick. Do you want us to stop if this is too many triggers?
Yeah. Oh, bless. And it's horrible. It's horrible. It's not good to read either.
It's not easy. That's why we did say.
How much further have you got left on this?
Not much further. No? All right. If anyone wants us to stop, just let us know.
Yeah, okay, Brunswick.
It's not easy, this. So she appeared to be intoxicated, yes.
And the coroner asked, what did you discuss with her, and what did you try to discuss with her?
She said that it initially tried to engage with Nikki in a conversation around her alcohol use and whether or not that was impacting the other aspects of her life, such as appetite, day-to-day stuff. Nikki admitted that she had lost weight. She had tried to engage with Nikki in a conversation around a statement that they were informed about. So that's she doesn't want to be here. There was some concerns about how she was feeling. She didn't want to engage much in the conversation and the interaction. I think it's fair to say it was quite brief. And then she identified that she was tired and wanted to go to sleep.
And the coroner asked, and in terms of this a mental health interaction, as I understand it, is just like a physical examination of anyone. If somebody says, I'm not going to engage with you, or I'm going to sleep, you can't force them to do so.
No.
And she still had capacity to direct her affairs.
Yes.
In terms of the interaction, what did you have with her? Did she appear distressed? Did she know or have any classic symptoms of depression, such as psychomotor, slowing, or low mood, or looking sad, or anything of that nature?
She replied, no, not that. Not that she could ascertain at the time, given that they had identified that she was intoxicated at the time. They didn't have any concern about her speech or ability to have a conversation. No slurring in her words. She was repetitive in comments as to stating that she wasn't sure how it had occurred, how they got in the situation. But wasn't able to qualify that statement with an explanation.
And the coroner says, in terms of this, did you get round to, I'm not phrasing it rightly. I appreciate the interview that you had to do with her was relatively short. But before she terminated it, did you have an opportunity to discuss her thoughts of self-harm or suicide with her?
And she replied, not directly, no.
I'm so sorry if it's triggering. It's horrible to read, but just for anyone who wants to know, I 100% don't think that was the case with her. From the evidence I've seen, there's no one in a family felt that was the way.
If anyone needs to talk after this, our inbox is always open. We'll be on for a couple of minutes after.
We'll be here for it afterwards, and then if you want to do us an email, I'll be up tonight, and also I'm happy to chat with anyone who's going through depression or anything like that.
But don't go for it, okay? We're here.
100%. Yeah, God, we've all had issues, and we know people who've had issues as well. It's not very nice at all, and it is triggering. I know it's but we'll get this finished as soon as we can, and then we can have a chat about things if people want to talk, or we'll talk privately with you as well. But the coroner just wanted to ask as well if Nikki also talked about something to do with her mortgage, as in her own mortgage.
And she replied, one of the points that was discussed, that Nikki make an appointment. Nikki to make an appointment to see the GP the following day. The explanation that she had given them was that she wasn't able to do that as she was sorting her mortgage out, or sorting a mortgage out.
Sorting a mortgage out, because the coroner asks is that sorting out somebody who's not, is that somebody who's not confronting their problems, or is that do you have any, you have anything you can't interpret that?
And she replied that she couldn't really interpret that. She wasn't aware of the following day's activities that Nikki had planned.
Okay, and I think then you went downstairs and spoke to a partner. What did he say about the mortgage?
So they went downstairs after they had the conversation, what was taking place in the bedroom, and they told Nikki's partner that the mortgage was it was told by Nikki's partner that the mortgage was fine and there wasn't no issue, and it wasn't something that was being done the following day.
And the coroner says, okay, I think you gave advice about what steps might be taken in respect to alcohol use, given that it was a concern, and where both Nikki and her partner and sister could obtain advice as to how to deal with alcohol use. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. In terms of your ability to assess her on the evening, was there any immediate needs or risks identified in context of her mental health?
And she replied, there was nothing that she could see.
And the coroner says, all right, is there anything further that I ought to have asked you and I haven't asked? I asked that a lot to everyone. No. And then he goes, okay, Miss Cartwright, and Miss Cartwright is obviously the legal representative for the Bully family, and she says, thank you, good morning. Just perhaps for completeness, I think you've already confirmed to the coroner that part of your visit to Nikki that day was to identify that there was no immediate harm from a mental health perspective.
Yeah.
I think there's also been a review, I think, of your visit, but is it right that it identified that you correctly determined that there was no urgent need that required any further immediate attendance for Nikki?
That's correct.
And also it was found, I think, that the review that Synergy did, so yourself attended in the reality that when Nikki didn't wholly meet the criteria for the visit of your service in any events.
Yeah, that's correct.
this is a big thing. She didn't really meet the criteria for them to be called out, so there wasn't really a big issue. That's something to hold on to there as well. And then Miss Cartwright continues, I think it was also identified at the review that you provided reasonable information to the family about Nikki's alcohol use.
I would like to think I had, yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, says Miss Cartwright, and the coroner says, thank you very much. If you, he just says, if you want to remain in the court, blah, blah, blah. So he closes. And
Teresa Leevy then says, thank you. Can I just express my deepest condolences to Nikki's family and friends that are here today?
All right. Are we going to do Elsie?
It's a hard one. I don't think we should tonight because obviously it's
I think we've done enough because it's 11:30 and I think it's been triggering for people, hasn't it?
Yeah, I just don't want to trigger them anymore.
Yeah, I think we can do Nikki's family members all in one. But we'll just like literally only evidence that relates to the case as well. They all speak fondly of Nikki. They make their own statements, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
How's everyone feeling?
Yeah, how's everyone feeling about after that?
Yeah,
I know it was hard. It was hard to read it.
I'm so sorry I couldn't go on chat when I was reading it, and I'm so sorry my reading out was a bit hard because it's because we've transcribed it. It doesn't always flow. It's like in terms of punctuation and stuff. It mishears things, doesn't it, a little bit?
Yeah, but I go through it. Quite a lot, and I'm literally getting the words that hasn't transcribed. I think one on PC Thackeray, it called him PC Battery at one point, so I had to change that.
I'm sure on one of the parts I've seen it trying to call him PC Fuckery, but I won't say any more about that. But oh no, I'm sorry that I'm really sorry if it triggered people in terms of hearing it, because I've got friends who've sadly they've passed away, and that they did have serious alcohol issues and everything, and I find it a little bit triggering myself. That thought was in my mind, and it's somebody like who I loved and everything. And
what I got from that report from the mental health nurse was Nikki didn't have a drinking problem. She might have drunk a little bit more, like some of us do when we're under pressure. And
it's around about Christmas as well.
Yeah. So
we always we don't stop drinking like on New Year's Day. We'll usually like have a bit of family time rolling out, and and you finish off all your Christmas stuff that you've still got in, don't you? And really until you take the tree down, isn't it?
Yeah, just because someone's drinking a little bit more than what you would do any other time, when you're stressed, it doesn't mean you're an alcoholic.
No.
Or have a drinking problem.
I think that there's different types of alcoholics, isn't there? Because you've got a person who is a binge drinker, and I'm probably a binge drinker. I don't drink. I probably drink about 4 times a year, literally. But when I do, by God, it's messy. And I've sat there, I've laughed, I've cried, I've sat there with my mascara running all down my face because I've been talking about something sad, and then and I've been laughing my ass off about something really daft with one of my daft friends from school. You know, we all deal with it differently, don't we? I suffer really bad hangovers. I usually have a hangover, and like, you know, I'm age 46 now. I'm the same age as Nikki, and I'll have a hangover that lasts a week.
Oh, that's why I don't drink no more. I can't handle the hangovers. It literally.
I'm always sick, and I've got a banging headache. It's awful. I can't. I literally can't cope. And then that's probably why I only drink 4 times a year now. Because it literally, you go through all that and you're like, oh my God. I keep singing that song in my head, you do it to yourself. Your fault. You know, but there's some people that can tolerate the hangover, and then they might drink more often. And then you get a functioning alcoholic, and then you get somebody who is chemically addicted to alcohol. And that's when they literally, you can't just say to them stop drinking, because they will actually become medically very, very seriously unwell, and they need to be given medication to counteract the lack of alcohol.
Yeah, but I honestly believe that she was just, you know, she's a mum, she was under pressure, and she was just stressed out. You know, new job, she was trying to juggle with this job, and
she's had a bit of time off with the kids by the sounds of things. You know, she's had a career before she's had a kids, then she's had a kids and had a little bit of time off being a mum to very young kids, and then she's decided that she wants to go back to work because both kids are in full-time education, and she's done that, and then she's got herself retrained, or I think I heard that she had worked for mortgages prior to having her kids.
Yeah, she was a mortgage broker before.
So, but you have to do your exams and qualifications. You have to keep them up to date. You have to do them, like some of them are annually, and some of them are every 4 or 5 years. So if you've had a break, you know, for a good few years having young kids, and you go into a new company as well, you've got a lot going on there, haven't you?
Yeah, and it was stated in Louise LC's statement at the inquest that Nikki had recently passed 2 exams, I think on the 13th of January, 90% on both. So
yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
they're hard, those exams are, and you know, there's a lot to it as well, because you have to do insurance services, you know, because for every property that you sell, you need to make sure that it's got buildings and sometimes contents insurance that usually gets lumped in with the sale of a mortgage. And then it depends on the type of mortgages as well, because I know in that area they might be doing a mortgage on like a caravan or a building that's not bricks and mortar, and it's a different type of mortgage process to go through.
Yeah.
So there would have been a lot to it, and to get 90%, fair play to her.
No, she done well.
Yeah.
And that
is everyone all right?
Yeah, that was 3 days after the welfare check, so she was getting back on track.
It sounds to me like she was flying, and it's natural to get stressed out when you're starting a new job anyway, isn't it? If you know, any new job is stressful.
Yeah, exactly.
From my perspective anyway, of what stress adds, and you know, because being a new person's not easy.
Yeah. So
but, has anyone got any questions that you want us to try and look at? Again, we know Danvers has got the one about the other side of the river, so we're going to try and get a picture of that. And I know I'll have that on my phone. And Danvers, I know how to contact you.
Yeah, I'll put our email address up, so if anyone does want to have a chat with us offline, this has triggered you, yeah, just drop us a message.
Yeah, or you can go onto our Facebook page as well, and just leave a little comment, and I'll come and chat to you privately as well.
Yeah. So we are here for you as well. I know this wasn't an easy one tonight, but I hope it's given you guys some insight as well.
Yeah, did anyone learn anything today from what we've gone through that you didn't know already? I know everyone in chat has been following the case. I recognise a lot of you from chats elsewhere and other YouTube channels that are covering it, but it's just helpful. But what we'll do in part 4, which will be the end, we'll go through the last bits, and then we'll try and bring everything back into the focus again, and basically look at questions as to anything that wasn't covered in the coroner's inquest that maybe should have been, and any questions we've got as a result of it as well.
And hopefully I'll be able to transcribe cold water shock people. Wasted an hour on that earlier and it wouldn't transcribe.
Oh yeah, that's quite a big part as well, actually, from memory. They go into a lot of detail, don't they? Oh, and we need to do the Fitbit as well.
No, we've done the Fitbit, haven't we?
Did we do the full Fitbit?
I don't know.
Do you know
I have to look for what I've got saved.
I think I'm getting senile dementia now as well. Now that you speak to my kids, and I definitely am. But,
there's so much. Jess, no, you can't. Well, you could if you went into the abandoned mansion, but you can't drive right up to the river part. No.
Yeah, it's you can park nearby to get onto the bench site. That it's not really a big long walk, is it, along the river path?
Yeah.